Tonight, part of a Port Augusta business goes up in flames, believed to be the work of an arsonist. And a very special local girl gets the chance to meet her idol.
This is Southern Cross News with Fraser Goldsworthy.
Good evening. An arsonist is believed to be responsible for a fire that tore through a Port Augusta tyre business overnight. The fire has caused hundreds of thousands of dollars damage after it destroyed a shed and two of the company's cars.
Smoke could be seen billowing from the shed on Carlton Parade for miles. Local business owner Darren Willis never thought it was his business that was on fire.
I was coming across the Old Wyler Road and I looked up and I said, geez, there's a lot of black smoke over there.
The blaze broke out at around 7:30 last night, tearing through a caravan before spreading to a tree and then this storage shed which housed company vehicles and tyres inside.
We just got here as quick as we could, but nothing I could do. It was up in smoke and yeah, too late.
All in all, we had 4 MFS appliances and 2 CFS appliances on scene, which totalled up to about 20 crew.
Firefighters battled for several hours to bring the fire under control.
Okay, the fire was controlled within about an hour of us receiving the call, but the fire was declared out at about 11 o'clock last night. So, yeah, about 3.5 hours.
Despite the estimated $360,000 damage bill, the owner says the company is still open for business. Anyone with more information on the blaze is being urged to contact Crime Stoppers.
Because there was a report of children playing in the area prior to the fire. So that's just one avenue of investigation that we're looking at.
With many interested locals on the scene last night, the MFS is reminding the public to keep their distance from all types of emergencies.
The last thing we're trying to do while we're attacking fires is trying to look after our own safety by not getting run over.
Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
The father accused of aggravated assault in a Port Augusta car park last year appeared in court this morning. A video of the man allegedly encouraging his son to punch another boy near Braddock Oval went viral on social media in December. Today, his lawyer said she needed more time, requesting a later court date for sentencing. Prosecution requested Judge Rodney Oates review the footage before the father's next court date on April 6. The man's son received a 2-year good behaviour bond at his hearing last month. Police have uncovered a cache of illegal firearms and drugs in the state's mid-north. Officers discovered 3 modified firearms, one of which had been fitted with a silencer, as well as a crossbow at a property at Rochester, north of Clare. Police say none of the firearms were stored correctly or even registered. They are suspected to have been stolen.
Investigations are continuing as to whether these modified firearms, have been used in any other crimes. That would be a concern for us.
Ammunition along with cannabis and other drug paraphernalia was also found. 2 men have been reported while a 37-year-old man and a 35-year-old woman from the mid-north have been arrested and charged. Local leaders have welcomed the decision by US President Donald Trump to exempt Australia from his steel tariff. The state Labor MP is pleased but is calling on the feds to ensure we don't become a dumping ground for cheap foreign product.
After a week of anxiety, a sense of relief after President Trump agreed to exempt Australia from his proposed 25% steel tariff. It's a big win for Wollongong and Whyalla, according to member for Grey, Rowan Ramsey.
We have nothing to fear from our steel imports into the US, and if anything, we have a higher cost base than the US. We have higher energy costs here in Australia.
While the steel city doesn't export much to the US, there was concern Trump's plan could affect our local steelworks. Eddie Hughes is concerned we could become a dumping ground for overseas steel if the United States shuts up shop.
Make sure that the GFG alliance here in Whyalla is not affected by that sort of approach.
Mr. Ramsey says we have to strike a balance between tackling dumped steel and allowing competitive exporters to sell.
It is dumped steel if it is materially below those prices now. We have to be careful what we aim at here.
Labor says it's also good news for steelworks owner Sanjeev Gupta if he wants to start exporting wireless steel.
It would be great if we get back into exporting steel. We need to be protecting jobs in Australia.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Well, the dream of a young Peterborough girl who suffers from a terminal illness has come true. She was lucky enough to meet her idol, Ed Sheeran, at his Adelaide concert last week.
5-year-old Holly Lavington suffers from Batten's disease, a debilitating and terminal illness that affects her brain and nervous system.
Happy girl. No matter what she's going through, she always seems to smile. She always seems to know how to connect with people. Everyone loves her.
But last week, Holly's dreams and wishes came true when she was given the opportunity to meet her pop star idol, Ed Sheeran.
And greeted Holly and said hello to Holly, and Holly looked at him and gave him a little bit of a smile.
Holly and her brother sing and dance to his music together every single day. Her favourite song is Thinking Out Loud. She had memorised every single word before the disease robbed her of the ability to be able to speak back in 2015. But her face still lights up every time she hears Ed sing.
The first song she heard was Thinking Out Loud, and she absolutely adored that song. To the point she knew every word.
Living rurally means long trips listening to Ed while travelling to Adelaide for treatment.
It's a long drive to Women's and Children, and we do it sometimes every month, sometimes every 3 months. So every time it came on the radio, she would jump for joy and scream and have a little sing-along.
For details on how to support Holly, head to our Facebook page. Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
After the break, the latest on the construction of the Murray River to Broken Hill pipeline. That's next. The construction of the Murray River to Broken Hill pipeline is well underway. Local water activists say while they can't stop the pipeline, their focus is now on the future of the Darling River.
Piece by piece, the mammoth project comes together,
giving a long-term future to Broken Hill with a safe and secure water supply.
Construction crews are hard at work craning in sections of the underground pipeline.
This will be one of the fastest builds of a piece of infrastructure like this that we've ever seen here in New South Wales. 5 kilometres a day of pipeline that's being laid. It's a massive effort.
The pipeline, which measures 270 kilometres in length between Wentworth and Broken Hill, will supply over 37 megalitres of a peak daily demand of raw water to the Silver City.
And this now addresses that issue for Broken Hill, so it can continue to go on to be an iconic city and contribute not just to the economic future of New South Wales, but also to the future of the community that surrounds Broken Hill.
Local water activists say it's too late to stop the pipeline, but it's vital the Darling River does not fall by the wayside.
What we have to do now really is concentrate on making sure water is allowed to flow down the Darling River.
Tom Kennedy says the Darling River Action Group will continue to fight for the river and the Menindee Lake system, even suggesting ways to improve water compliance.
Water metering, if it's tampered with or not used, that they lose their water licences or pay significant fines. That floodplain irrigation is actually monitored and calculated to see how much is taken. So there's a lot of things that can be done to make sure that water's returned to the river.
The pipeline is expected to be finished by December. Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
Diversification, cooperation and communication. That's what the Whyalla Chamber of Commerce wants from the next member for Giles. The group has released its state election wish list, which prioritises securing the future of the Steel City.
After a rotten 2 years, the Whyalla business sector is looking to rebuild and drive forward. The Whyalla Chamber of Commerce wants the next member for Giles in the passenger seat, working with them to secure new opportunities for the city.
That is a key to our success. It's about engagement, it's about positive relationships to move forward so we can achieve.
Amongst many things, it wants the next MP to help diversify the city's traditional one-industry economy.
We should be having discussions with them to see what the opportunities are for those businesses to be placed in the regions and how we can support that.
But that shouldn't come at the cost of support for the town's steel industry.
We see that there may be some things happening, but we want to make certain that those things come to fruition to reduce the cost of business.
The cost of doing business also needs to drop. While its heavy industry economy means the cost of power can be the difference between being sustainable. Mr Hayes says the next MP must help bring prices down.
We want to see that continue, that support. There is financial needs for the business.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
With polling day for this year's state election now just days away, all parties are beginning their last-ditch efforts to sell their policies to the public. Tonight we look at the all-important area of food and agriculture, a pillar of our region's economy. Here's Jason Kemp.
Agriculture equates to roughly 25% of the state's economy and will form a major part of how our region votes this Saturday.
I believe there's never been a more exciting time to be in agriculture.
Farming and agriculture has supported the South Australian economy for well and truly over 150 years.
Exportation is a major focus for primary producers. Crops are transported around the world from the EP, keeping our market afloat. But the Liberals want to make that easier.
We're going to be dedicating 30% of the mining royalties from this state, both petroleum and minerals, into a regional infrastructure fund. So around about $750 million.
Labor has promised a 10% share of mining royalties as part of a royalty return program, while SA Best will establish a royalties for regions fund to invest in new infrastructure for farmers.
We understand that mining needs to exist and mining has its place in South Australia, for example, in the northern part of the state, and we fully support that. But we also want to make sure that land conflict issue is very easily dissolved and resolved.
Mining on agricultural land continues to be a contentious issue, but SA Best are backing farmers.
Agriculture is critically important to the South Australian economy, and that should be first and paramount.
Labor is boasting its deep-sea port plans in the Spencer Gulf to make exporting our produce easier. Former grain producer Peter Trelaw says the Liberals will be doing the same.
Something we'd be looking very seriously at.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
After the break, Port Lincoln locals cool off at a water park touring the region. All the fun next. Two of the region's most prominent energy companies have announced they'll co-build a new high-voltage power line north of Port Augusta. Solar Reserve and Oz Minerals both say they expect to complete the work by 2020.
An unprecedented move for private energy and mining companies in the region.
So we started some discussions and have culminated that in an agreement to collaborate on that transmission line.
Instead of doubling up, Oz Minerals and Solar Reserve will be splitting the cost for a high-voltage power line.
Aurora will be used to provide electricity for schools, hospitals and police stations, so not to Oz Minerals, but it made sense for us to share a connection rather than running two separate transmission lines to roughly the same spot in the network we would be connecting into.
The new transmission line, spanning 270 kilometres in length, is expected to increase power security to both sites, reduce line losses and allow Oz Minerals to carry out its Prominent Hill mine plan. It'll allow outgoing power from Solar Reserve. The line is expected to be operational in 2020 as construction of both projects is expected to be complete. Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
A pop-up water park touring the regions has descended on Port Lincoln. Splash and Bounce allowed kids to escape the heat over the weekend in giant inflatable pools with water slides that rival interstate theme parks.
In boats, on tubes and down water slides, kids just couldn't get enough.
Because it's just so much fun.
This inflatable sanctuary boasts everything from a giant octopus to oversized swimming pools and bumper boats never seen before in Lincoln.
You have to go into a big city to do all this sort of stuff, so it's nice. That's why we love bringing it to regional places. It's always a hit.
Splash and Bounce is a travelling water park making waves across the state this summer. Now in its second year, this cool idea offers kids a unique way to spend their holidays.
It brings a lot of people to these events.
We get to travel around and have a good time together for, 3 months of the year in the summer months and chase the sun a bit.
While young families soaked up the experience, it wasn't hard to find a popular favourite.
Everything. That big slide. Yeah, that's the best.
Probably the big slide.
Yeah, the big slide.
This 12-metre high slide known as the Godzilla is an adrenaline rush not for the faint-hearted. And even the staff get in on the action.
After a long day, we always tend to go down the big slide and have a bit of fun, but yeah, it's always good to top off the weekend with it, yeah.
Port Lincoln was the last stop for the water park this year, but if you missed out, there's a good chance it'll be making a splash next summer. Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
To sport now, and the Broken Hill and Whyalla A-grade cricket seasons came to an end over the weekend in two very contrasting games. Patrick Reinke joins us now from Broken Hill, and there was a nail-biter there at Alma Oval, Pat.
That's right, Fraser. It came right down to the final over in Saturday's final between North and Central, with the Bulldogs just prevailing. North won the toss and batted first, with the dangerous Tobias Hack and Cody Howard forging a partnership early on. The pair put on 61 runs before David O'Malley bowled Hack for 25. Howard was eventually caught behind, just 2 runs shy of a half-century. The Bulldogs were 4 for 85 with 9 overs remaining, with Central doing acrobatics to save runs. A good effort from their middle order saw them set the Magpies a target of 136 for victory. The Magpies' run chase didn't start well, losing John Corrett and Riley Elvery early on. Tristan Smith and Jared Paul started to turn the game back in Central's favour, but it was hard yards. North's tight bowling saw runs become scarce, and after a hard-fought 34 from 40, Smith was caught. Paul edged one to Hack soon after, and Scott Mateer didn't stay long enough to break a sweat. At 8 for 83, Adam Rhodes came to the crease and led a revival. The power hitter smashed 6 after 6 after 6, putting the game on a knife's edge. Needing 15 from the final over, Central was in with a sniff of their 6th straight premiership. But Josh Savage held his nerve with the cherry, only giving up 5 runs and guiding North to a very emotional win after their coach passed away early on in the week.
Yeah, the boys. Yeah, unbelievable. From the week we've had, probably one of the toughest weeks we've gone through, and to come through another side just makes it so much better.
And in Whyalla, it was a very low-scoring final, also fought between North and Central. Having only lost 1 game this season, North won the toss and chose to bat first, but they could only muster 40 runs. Central's Daniel Collison led the charge with the ball, taking 4 for 14. Only needing 41 for victory, Jared Dunbar and Scott Collison had no problem finding the runs to lead their side to a very easy victory. Over in Port Lincoln, and Southern Air are straight through to the grand final after beating Todd River by 24 runs. And over in Port Pirie, Proprietary will square off against Wandera for the A-grade premiership this weekend after beating Solly North. So Fraser, that wraps up a huge weekend in local cricket. Congratulations to North Broken Hill and Central Whyalla for their wins. And I'll be back tomorrow night to wrap up all the other sport from around the regions.
Thank you, Pat. Pat Reinke in Broken Hill there. Well, stay with us. After the break, we'll have all the local weather details with Amy. And Amy, are the milder autumn temperatures here to stay around the region?
Indeed they are, Fraser, at least for the time being, with the mercury set to soar once again around the Spencer Gulf as we head towards the weekend. I'll have all the details next. Welcome back. Port Augusta experienced milder autumn temperatures today, 28 the top there, 25 in Whyalla, while Port Lincoln only reached a top of 23. Meanwhile, temperatures hovered in the low to mid-20s in all other centres. Checking the satellite, and a high pressure system is keeping skies mostly clear over South Australia. If you're looking to spend some time on the water tomorrow, there will be southeasterly winds shifting southwesterly up to 20 knots. Seas will reach 2 metres and the sun will pop up at 16 past 7. Taking a look at tomorrow's conditions, and the autumn temperatures are settling in. Port Augusta will reach 28, a cooler 22 in Coffin Bay, 29 in Broken Hill, while temperatures will continue to hover in the low to mid-20s for all other districts. Looking towards the end of the week, and while temperatures will hover in the 20s, Port Lincoln will warm up to 35 on Saturday. Similar conditions in Cleve, with the mercury creeping up to 37. Meanwhile, Woodner can expect a scorching 39 over the weekend. Further up the Gulf, and temperatures will continue to creep towards the high 30s in Whyalla and Port Augusta. Kadina can also expect a top of 30 degrees on Friday before heading to 35 on Saturday. Similar conditions in Port Pirie and Broken Hill, with sunny conditions and temperatures heading towards the high 30s over the weekend. Meanwhile, temperatures will continue to hover in that mid-20s range in Clare before 35 on the weekend. So Fraser, despite the cooler temperatures this week, summer isn't quite ready to say goodbye, with the mercury set to soar just in time for the weekend.
Thank you, Amy. And that's Southern Cross News for this Tuesday. Thanks for joining us. Good night.